It is the last week of the regular season in MLB. And the Giants are not yet eliminated. So I guess that is a good thing.
6 games left, right? We got 6 games left as a recording of this. We got one tonight. There's only 3 games in Major League Baseball today on the last Monday of the season. 3 games.
So that must mean the Giants have Thursday off this week.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So I'm guessing those teams who have today off are playing Thursday.
Yeah, so it'll be for the rest of Major League Baseball, except for 6 teams, it's going to be baseball Tuesday straight through to Sunday, which is kind of fun. You know, I would have liked that for us, but that's fine. Yeah, having Thursday off is all right.
Well, the Giants, we kind of had a battle plan for the Giants last week. We said, here's how they can still win the third wild card. And some of that had to do with going into Arizona and winning 2 out of 3, which they did not. They only won 1. And then going into LA and splitting, which they did not. They only won 1. So it was a failure of a week last week. And as you can tell, their pitching staff is just fumes right now.
Oh,
you have Justin Verlander is really the one who's pitching best. Like Logan Webb is still battling, but Justin Verlander is kind of the one who's pitching the best of his season so far right now. Robbie Ray is on fumes. The Giants are having to patchwork some starts with Kai-Wei Tang. Yesterday, they got a really good start out of Trevor McDonald, who and people are wondering, like, oh, where's this guy been? Well, he's been in AAA with a 5.3 something ERA. That's where he's been. Yeah. And then, it's just you hate to look back and go, well, look at the trades that they made. Well, they gave up the bullpen at the deadline, which is part of the reason why they're struggling to put together these games. But then something good came out of that, which was, Drew Gilbert, which was an opportunity for Eldridge to play a little bit. And we'll talk about that. Also, they brought up today Jesus Rodriguez, though he's on the taxi squad, so he's not on the actual roster. I think they just want him up here for the last week of the season just to kind of feel like a big leaguer and then head into camp next year with an opportunity to make the team. So I think with 3 games back, really 4 games back, because they lose almost all the tiebreakers, it's really like they need to win every game and these other teams need to struggle. So more than likely by midweek, they're probably going to be officially eliminated. But I did want to give out the schedules for the remaining schedules for the wild card. So Cincy, who is currently tied with the Mets. Do you know who is the tiebreaker there?
You know what? I meant to look that up today and I didn't get to it, but that's an interesting one, right? And the way Major League Baseball has it on their website in the standings is they have Cincinnati over the Mets. So I'm guessing they have the tiebreaker, but I don't know 100%.
The Cincinnati Reds have the tiebreaker over the Mets, having won the season series between the 2 teams. That is wild.
That's insane because that team is also kind of running on fumes as well. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz has been hurt most of the season. He doesn't even have 40 stolen bases, and that tells you how his legs are doing right now. So he's kind of banged up, but they're winning ball games when they should. So
the Reds have 3 against the Pirates, and the Pirates are currently 67 and 89. Not quite the Rockies.
Division rival, though. So
not quite the White Sox, but
yeah, no.
They are right there with the rest of the teams, Nationals as well. So if you're a Reds fan, you go, hey, we got to sweep these 3. And then the hope is that you go into Milwaukee and that Milwaukee sees that they are already set to either be the first or the second seed in the National League. They have a 3-game lead on the Phillies right now. So maybe if they clinch at some point, maybe they rest their guys on that last homestand. And if you're a Reds fan, maybe you think you can go in and take a couple there. For the Mets, You have 3 against the Cubs on the road, though the Cubs are struggling right now. And then you have 3 on the road against the Marlins. So maybe a little bit more favorable. I don't know which schedule I'd rather have to end the season. And it would be wild if it came down to the last game and Cincinnati wins on a tiebreaker. That would be
and that's the thing too. Yeah, our boys are kind of flailing, and we have been since, I don't know, June, July maybe. We had a nice little boost there last month. So we're also baseball fans, and I would imagine most people listening to this are also baseball fans. So that's all you can ask for is some really good, fun races. And you got Cleveland 1 game behind the, falling apart Detroit Tigers for that division. So it's really fun just to kind of watch these races during the last week. We have that MLB.TV subscription that you and I get every year. I'm going to be using the hell out of it this week because, I'm sure they're going to be on, MLB Network and whatnot, ESPN and all of that. But I'm going to have those games up and just kind of on in the background because, I want to see, it's basically this week for a lot of teams, it's playoff baseball. The playoffs basically start today and tomorrow for a lot of these teams. So it's fun to watch up and down.
By the way, we want to shout out Rob, who's in the channel. He was shouting out some of the other Giants podcasts, and it's funny because what we do is kind of in our own little bubble. Like I don't even think of us as like necessarily like a Giants podcast competing with other we're just like, we just want to talk about the Giants. And
right.
But I love the idea that there are other Giants podcasts out there. He wanted to shout out the Hum Baby Baseball, Giant Sports Talk Live, and the Even Year Dynasty. Even Year Dynasty they get a lot of live streams, so shout out to them. But all of this stuff with the Giants ecosystem of podcasts and stuff, they're just like us. They're just hanging out and chit-chatting with their buddies and talking about baseball. So thanks to Rob for checking in with us on the live feed. So now you look at the Diamondbacks, and I think the Diamondbacks, had they not had such a hard last 6 games, I still kind of think they're better than those teams, but they have the Dodgers at home, and we'll be Diamondbacks fans for these 3 games,
of course.
And then they're on the road at San Diego to end the season for 3. So they have a bit of a tougher road, and which makes me think that they're probably not going to be able to catch either team. But if we're not rude. I don't really care who gets it. If it's the Giants, and it's like, who cares? But I kind of sort of would like to see the NL West take 3 of those spots, because that just shows how tough that division was.
Absolutely.
And then obviously the Giants, we have 3 at the Cards, or 3 here versus the Cards, and then 3 here versus the Rockies. Can we just sweep them all? Can we just win the rest of them? Can we? Is it possible?
Thinking about that before we went on, I'm in there getting my snack. I got my yogurt and peanut butter, and I'm mixing it up. And I go, you know what I want this week? I just want a 6-0 week. If we make the playoffs, we make the playoffs after that, right? But I just want to see a 6-0 week for fun, get above 500, play really exciting, fun baseball this week. Go out on a high note for the end of the season. I know a lot of people are, if that happens, a lot of people are going to be like, what if we would have won this game back in June or this one in August and blah, 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 blah. Exactly. It is what it is. The 162 games, you could look at that every season. We can go back to 1993, right?
We do. We do.
We can find ourselves 2 games, 1 game here and there. It's not that hard. But we don't want to do that, because that's not really, what this show is about. We don't usually go back and say, what if, and it's so frustrating. We got to fire Melvin because on June 21st, at 4:05 p.m., he made the wrong decision. So, but yeah, I want to see a 6-0 week. That would be super awesome. Could we get it? We probably could, right?
Put some heat on these teams, man. Make it fun.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I guess McDonald will get another start before the end of the season. I wonder when okay, this is all with the idea that they're going to be in it until they're not in it. I would imagine everyone who's in the rotation is going to figure out their final starts. But then if you are eliminated, maybe Spencer Bivens gets a shot to start. Maybe Carson Wisenhunt, who is, I think he's still rehabbing, possibly comes back and you get him one more start so he can kind of head into the offseason on a good note rather than on an injured note. And those are some of the things that they're going to figure out depending on, because if they're still in it, I think they're going to play all of these games to win them, because that is kind of how you do it in baseball. You owe it to those other teams who are also in the mix to give it your best.
Absolutely. And the Giants players want to anyways. And that's the whole thing. These guys, I mean, Willie Adames wants to hit 30, right? And Devers has 32, but he'd like to have 35, I guarantee.
And Devers has an opportunity to play 163 games this year.
That's right, because of the trade. He came over. He played that Sunday that he was traded. Giants didn't play Monday and played the first game that the Giants had next on the schedule on that Tuesday, and you and I were there. We'll always have that memory. 2025, right?
I got his first hit, and I put it on YouTube as a little short. He hit that double, which was nice, and we were just thinking, we're like, oh man, if this guy can do this every single game, we're in the mix. And then they just went on to lose like every game for the next 2 weeks.
I still think him and Adames, now that they're settled, they're going to have spring training together in Arizona. Second season there for Adames, first spring training for Devers, but he's been with the team for half a season. I still think those guys are going to come out of the chute next year and just be massive offensive forces for the Giants. Have those guys in the middle of the lineup for an entire season. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I do have a bone to pick with one Willie Adames because, the Giants, like the story of this series against the Dodgers was an inability to take advantage of opportunities. And I don't even remember which game it was, but it was one of the first two games, I believe. And they load the bases, and Willie Adames has the opportunity to be a bit of a hero. And I'm thinking, like, I'm putting myself in the shoes of how I've looked at other big-time Giants players, how I've looked at someone like Jeff Kent, someone like Barry Bonds, someone like Will Clark, someone like Matt Williams. And, Matt Williams had a lot of strikeout in his swing when he was a younger player. But you had this, like, Buster Posey would be one of these as well. You had this confidence that these guys were going to have really good at-bats because in the clutch, you just trusted that they were ready to rise to the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this Adames AB, and this guy, I think he was trying to hit the baseball literally to the moon. I think it was Trainin who was on the mound. And, Trainin's got that when the cutter and stuff is on, like, and the little sink, like some of those pitches are almost unhittable because he can get to the corners on that stuff. But I'm thinking, like, okay, if you are thinking of this may be our only real opportunity, who knows, to score some runs, but it's a great opportunity. And you're Adames and you're thinking, like, okay, I'm thinking single, and if you hit the single in the right spot, maybe it's double. I'm not thinking grand slam, because the worst thing you can do is strike out, because who hits behind you now has 2 outs and the pitcher's on a roll, having just struck out the guy. Like, you need to put the ball in play, and you need to have an idea of, like, this is what I need to do in this at bat. I don't know. Maybe the Pat Burrell way is to, like, swing out of your ass, because if you do make contact, it's going to go a long way and you're the hero.
Yeah.
I just wanted this dude to put the ball in play and make the Dodgers play baseball. And he didn't come close. And he takes he worked the AB a little. I think he had a foul ball. Then he took a called third strike, which was a really close pitch. It was a great pitch. But never in that at-bat did I think, you know what, this dude's coming through. And it wasn't that I thought he wasn't going to come through. It was based off of that, how he was swinging. I was like, okay, there were some clutch moments where Buster would be up and you're like, I see Buster is taking a little bit off of his swing, or he's actually trying to go the other way with this pitch.
Right.
He's not trying to drive this thing into the bleachers. He's actually just trying to put good wood on it. And Adames is literally trying to put this thing out of the park. And I was just like, I wish, and this is you and I just being old dudes, like I wish the situational hitting was a little bit more like it was when we were younger, like this home run or nothing mentality. It frustrates me so much in these scenarios because what you're doing is you're letting the pitcher off the hook by, power swinging when really you have the strength to just muscle. You have the strength to do a normal swing. The guy's throwing 97 and you can put good wood on it and that ball's going to go. You do not need to swing out of your shoes in this moment. And so I was so frustrated in that because I was like, that is where I don't really have faith in Adames and Devers right now. They swing so hard at pitches that they miss so badly that you kind of wonder, like, what were you actually looking for? Or did you just get fooled so badly? And where is the thing where you could go, okay, let me shorten up a little bit here. I don't need to match this dude's power as much. I can just get a good swing on it. And I'm going to drive that ball no matter what. I trust my hands. And so I was just so frustrated in that moment. And I was like, and yet that is how the Giants hit this year.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say when, and it shows you the holes in the lineup too, because I'm okay with that. On the flip side, I'm just going to say I'm okay with that because if you got two guys who are going to hit 30 home runs each, that's what you get. But when the rest of your lineup is, like you always say, is it Punch or is it Judy? You can't tell which one's up there. The rest of your lineup is like that, then yeah, you need those guys to drive in your runs. You get a bases loaded situation. We don't need you to hit a home run right now. We need you to get a sac fly. We need you to drive the ball in the gap or bloop it over the shortstop's head and drive in 2 runs. But, and that's what I keep saying, maybe next year we have some of those guys that you can say, all right, now you can swing out of your ass. Because the guy behind you is going to probably put the ball in play somewhere. So you take your shots. But I mean, and also, do you think it's a push for 30 swing? Do you think that some of those swings are push for 30 swings, or like they're like, hey, we've lost a couple games to the Dodgers. I really want to get to those 30 home runs. So this is my situation. But you're right. I mean, you're taking Trina off the hook. I mean, you're basically telling them, you don't have to throw a strike here. I'm swinging hard. So if you throw something on the outside corner of the plate, I'm going to swing hard and I might just dribble it back to you, because anything over the middle of the plate, I'm going to crush it, but you don't have to even go there. So.
Yeah. And, I understand your point. I guess because this is something that they preached in the offseason, right? Buster preached situational hitting. Like, we need to get better at that. He preached a lot of things. I just don't think
some guys are like that, though. That's the problem.
And maybe they need to rebuild their roster to build around some guys like that. Yeah. I mean, we lost one of the Punch and Judy All-Stars just the other day, and Brett Wisely.
Yeah, I know, man. That guy could put the ball in play, and he played a pretty decent second base. He was a fun second baseman.
And he was the he was the quintessential Farhan Zaidi player who you could just bring up and down and back and forth and left and right. Yeah. And he finally ran out of options, like, after all these years.
And we thought Koss was the same guy, and we thought, for a while Casey Schmidt was the same guy. And those guys have kind of separated themselves a little bit. Mm-hmm. But we thought, you could take the beard off of this guy and put it on this guy, and it's the same guy. I mean, that's kind of, the 3 bearded infielders.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, it was kind of funny to have all those guys. But yeah. I mean, it helps that Casey Schmidt has kind of separated himself a little bit, and Koss has separated himself. Again, those guys are slumpy hitters too, and they're streaky big time. So if you can get more guys that can put the ball in play, to go with your swing from the shoes hitters. You're building a lineup, and I think that's what Buster Posey wants to do because he's seen it. I mean, he's seen, we've had Juan Uribe, we've had Edgar Renteria, we've had those guys, right? In those lineups with Buster Posey and Andres Torres and all those guys. So you can mix and match and have a nice lineup. You just can't have two guys who swing from their shoes and the rest of the guys are, K or grounded to double play guys, because that's just hard to watch.
What did you think of Bob Melvin's quote when they had kind of asked him, the Padres and the Dodgers are ahead, like, do you think they're that much better than you guys? And he said no. And I guess maybe that's the right thing publicly to say.
Yeah.
But we just watched them 4 games against the Dodgers. And there's definitely a talent separation there. They could not beat the Padres. They struggled. They lost the series against the Diamondbacks. And if you look at the NL West, I saw a stat that said if they were even against those 3 teams, instead of being so far below 500 against those 3 teams, that they'd actually be 3 games ahead of the 3rd wild card rather than where they are today. And that's kind of how you measure yourself, is against the best teams in your division. I'm not sure I believed Bob Melvin when he said he didn't think there was that big of a difference between his team and the Dodgers and the Padres.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, if you're matching, effort and attitude, maybe they're pretty close. But if you're matching talent, no, it's not. I mean, the Dodgers definitely have a better team. They still right now have better organization altogether. And so, yeah, I mean, you're going to say that if you're the manager of the Giants, you're going to pump your team up and not to bring football into it, but Rams lost a heartbreaker to the Eagles yesterday. And I saw some stuff this morning and say, hey, I'd be more afraid of the Rams than the Eagles right now. Well, I mean, the Rams blew a 26-7 lead and lost the game. So I think you just kind of have to say those things. If you're an executive, you have to say these teams are close. I'd be more afraid of this team and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's where Melvin was kind of coming from. He's got to save face and pretty much say, hey, my team is pretty close to this team.
And I guess you're putting a little bit of pressure on yourself, and you're not putting pressure on your boss who's putting together this roster. Because if you say, yeah, they're a little bit more talented than us, then it's like, hey, Buster, like you need to get us some more guys.
I mean, but Buster's only had, he's only had one off season, so. And it started with Chapman, so he was really had a head start. He signed Chapman before he fired Farhan.
So. Exactly. So I was talking to my son, my youngest, JJ, and he said, it doesn't feel like the Giants will ever beat the Dodgers. It just feels like, from an organizational perspective, they just have the upper hand. And I said, right now, yes. But the thing that you have to look closely with is how quickly do these guys age out for the Dodgers. For the first time ever, we've seen Mookie Betts have kind of an off year. We've seen the injury bug catch up with Freddie Freeman. Will Smith, I think he's out for the entire season as well, which is rough. Like, they're playing like a couple of like AAA catchers, I think, at this point. And so there are and your football references was funny, because I was going to open this show saying, well, at least we have football. And then the Rams lost in like the most heartbreaking fashion ever.
Yeah.
And the Niners lose Nick Bosa to an ACL injury for the second time in like 4 seasons. So it's just like,
it's nuts, man. And football is one of those, that's what I love about baseball. You got 162 games. All right. So a guy has some arm issues. He's going to miss 4 or 5 starts. Hey, you've got a 40-man roster. You've got depth, you've got minor leaguers, you've got stories, because a guy can come up and pitch, a great game. And then you go, oh, that's a great story, and he's going to fill in for the next 3 or 4 games. We could ride this for the next month or next 2 or 3 weeks, and let's see how it plays out. With football, you lose a guy like Bosa, and you go, well, that's like, 1/4 of a stellar defensive line. Now what do you do? And you've got 14 games left. And then the playoffs possibly. So yeah, that's the heartbreaking thing with baseball. And that's why, kids, baseball is a better sport.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about people getting hurt so much.
Yeah.
Except maybe if you are in the Dodgers organization and you have a shoulder.
Angels fan and you want to see Trout just be on the field,
Wait, did he hit? What did he hit the other day? Home
run
number
400. Number 400, man. And he was on 399 for a really long time. And the way he started the season as well, I thought, oh man, he's going to hit that, 400 quick. He's going to hit it in like May. No, September.
No.
I'd love to see him play 150 game season.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Before he's done, but yeah.
Just for him to be so banged up.
Yeah.
So I guess, what I would say is, and not that you hope for any of this, you want the teams to play, but if you're a Giants fan and you're looking at where can you kind of close the gap on the Dodgers, some of it isn't just the Dodgers' best players could possibly get old. Now, Shohei could probably hit like Shohei for at least the next 6 years, the way that he swings the bat, just flicking his wrist and hitting home runs over the left field fence. That's the guy that I think is just going to be in our nightmares for as long as we're doing this podcast. Right. But it's the other guys, how they fill in the gaps with whenever Mookie Betts ages out, whenever Freddie Freeman ages out, who do they have in the pipeline? Some of these guys they've had to sell off in trades. So they're always replenishing their farm system. So that would be kind of how you make some gains, and you just hope that some of these picks that you've made and some of these free agent acquisitions you've made and the trade with Devers, you hope that stuff pays off and you can kind of, inch by inch creep closer to them. But I do wonder if you look at the way the Dodgers handle pitching, because we saw this early in the season when it worked for the Giants, is that the way the Dodgers handle pitching is, outside of Yamamoto, it's like 5 and dive for like every single one of their guys.
Yeah.
Glasnow is fantastic, but that he's not seeing the 8th inning. Like he I don't know how many times he's even pitched into the 8th inning in his entire career, but that is not what they expect out of him. Blake Snell, we saw the Blake Snell experience. We know what that's all about. So if your advantage is in building your rotation, because by the time when you are playing head-to-head versus the Dodgers and you got Logan Webb out there and it's the 8th inning and the Dodgers are already on their 3rd reliever of the game, in a head-to-head series, the cleaner your starting rotation is, the more you can use your bullpen strategically, whereas sometimes the Dodgers just have to use their arms over and over and over and over, and you see stuff like Tanner Scott giving up the grand slam to Patrick Bailey. And that may be the one advantage that you can have over them, is the way that you run your rotation out there, just because of the strategical and stylistic differences in how they look at pitching. But I wanted to shout out Ghost, who's in the chat. Ghost and Rob, both, I think the avenue to our channel was through Valkyrie stuff. So nice. I love seeing the folks who watch the Valkyrie stuff and then come through on our other channels. On our other shows. It's super fun for me to see familiar faces. So shout out to both of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I just want to tell you, Glasnow pitched 8 complete innings on April 21st, 2024. That was the only time. Only time he did it last year.
Okay.
And he hasn't done it this year. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So let's move on. We'll hang on the Giants Dodgers talk for a second. And you know what? We might as well. I guess we should just do it. Let's just go bitter Giants here. Clayton Kershaw, his last start at home for the Dodgers. Is he not starting this week, or was that just his last start at home?
That was his last start at home, regular season. Playoffs, different story. He could get a start. I don't know if he'd get a start in
He's
the
probably coming
first
out of the
round,
pen
but
in the first round.
I would think so. Yeah. But he
But
could start a game if they go into the next series, because if you go 7 games, especially.
and good riddance is what I say.
Yeah. Adios.
Because he dominated the Giants like nobody else, I think, in the history of Major League Baseball. And I was thinking about it because if you remember, he and Lincecum were young pitchers. I think Lincecum's a little bit older than him, I think, around the same time. And, Lincecum comes up in 2008, 2009, Cy Young, and then the Giants win it all in 2010. And then Kershaw's just on a roll, like maybe the single most consistent pitcher in the National League in the last 15 years. But the difference was always in how they pitched in the postseason. And Lincecum in 2010 was the MVP of the entire postseason after winning Game 6 against Texas. And then Lincecum has a really good 2011. And then in 2012, he just falls off just big time. And he does help in the 2012 playoffs as well. He comes out of the bullpen and helps that team. And then in 2013, 2014, just dreadful. 2015, dreadful. And then soon he's gone. And you look at Kershaw, who was so consistent up until recently, where he's definitely lost something, and that's just due to age. But he never had those playoff moments in the same way that Lincecum did. His, the photo, that the meme was just of him in the dugout sitting on the bench holding his head, like that was the meme, right? And you wonder how these guys are so competitive. Like I wonder how much, if he had a Lincecum 2010 moment, I wonder how many of his regular season dominance he would give up just to have that Lincecum 2010 scenario where he was the man. Because Kershaw wanted to be that. He desperately wanted to be that.
Right.
They even tried to run him out there like Mad Bum that one year, remember?
Right.
Where he came and he pitched and it just like that whole thing, like Lincecum and Mad Bum had these just historic playoffs, and then Kershaw just never had it. He's got 2 rings, though. You can't take that away from him. He does have 2 rings. Some will say that one of them is a what do they say, a Mickey Mouse ring?
Yeah.
And that was kind of mean, because then the Giants had Mickey Mouse Day at Oracle Park last year. That really made Dodger fans mad, by the way. I had my Dodger fans buddy was just like so mad. He's like, "You guys are trolling. What the hell?"
It should make them mad. They should be mad about that. Nobody should be happy about that World Series title if you're a Dodger fan.
But I guess I would say, what is your Kershaw memory? And it doesn't have to be a positive one, because there's so many not positive for them. It doesn't have to be positive for them. But like when you think of Kershaw, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
When I think of Kershaw, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the meme. It's the picture. It's the, faltering in October. It's the falling apart in October and giving up tons of hits and tons of runs and getting losses when the team counted on him. In a world where we are right now, where everybody's feeding off of hate and this type of stuff and divisiveness, I always try to bring things together and show some love and this and that. But when it comes to Kershaw, you just can't. I can't do it. So I think of those times, and I relish in those times, because as a Giants fans, we don't want to see the Dodgers win the World Series. We don't want to see them win a playoff series even. So when his time came up, we thought, oh, this is going to be beautiful. If he takes them out and gets the loss for them and gets blown up, we're just going to eat that up. It's going to be fantastic. I think the other one too wasn't there a game where Joe Panic hit 2 home runs off of him? Am I remembering? That's
That's a good question. So mine is gonna be when Mad Bum hit a jack off of Kershaw. I'm trying to pinpoint what game that was. Because I don't actually know if this was the game, but I went to Giants opening day. I want to say it was 2000. Was it 2017? Um, and I remember this clearly because I did the Giants and Dodgers, or I'm sorry, Giants and Warriors back to back. So the Giants played in the day, and then we shot out to see the Warriors that night play the San Antonio Spurs. But I'm trying to remember because I want to say it was the Giants Dodgers and Bumgarner went deep, but it may not have been Kershaw. But I know that he's taken Kershaw deep twice in his career, which was always kind of fun. And I feel like the Lincecum and Kershaw matchups early when Lincecum was on, those were great. But the Bumgarner and Kershaw matchups were the one that I feel were a little bit more memorable because they're both left-handed. They're both kind of tall, skinny, not even skinny, just tall, like built dudes, like athletic dudes, and those were some battles. I always felt like I'm gonna guess that Kershaw got the better of Bumgarner and more than Bumgarner got the better of Kershaw. But I always felt
we couldn't hit lefties. That's why.
Yeah, we couldn't hit, and we couldn't hit him. And then but I always felt like they had a great chance to win those games when it was Bumgarner, and I didn't feel that well when it was another pitcher going up against Kershaw. Who was there was a lefty who beat Kershaw when the Giants needed it one year. I forget what that dude's name was. He's like a quadruple A pitcher.
I know what you're talking about. I did, going back to the Joe Panic thing, I misremembered it, but it is actually record breaking for the Giants. Joe Panic hit the solo home run off of Clayton Kershaw. I think it was opening day 2018, and they won 1-0. And then the next day, Joe Panic hit a solo home run off of Kenley Jansen, and they won that game 1-0. So they won back-to-back games 1-0, and Joe Panic hit solo home runs in both of those games to win it. So that was a fun one. I remember when Panic hit that home run, and the look on his face was like, I just took Clayton Kershaw deep. And this was 2018 too. 2018 Clayton Kershaw. So pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, no. That's good stuff. I think if I'm correct, maybe it's 2018 that this happened, but I can't figure it out. I should have thought about it before we started talking. But yeah, just good riddance. Dude owned us, and I don't like seeing his face, and he can go away. But for him, he's gonna go. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll be there in 5 years, and I can't imagine many people not voting for him.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
All right, let's just quickly look at the rest of the news about the team. So we mentioned Jesus Rodriguez. He is on the taxi squad. We mentioned Trevor McDonald coming up for a start. Looks like he's going to get another one. We mentioned Brett Wisely getting picked up by the Braves. And I guess my question for you is Justin Verlander. Do the Giants try and re-sign him? Like, what does it take to re-sign Justin Verlander? Is he now in the driver's seat, even though he put us through hell for like half the season or more because he's been so good in his last 5 starts?
Yeah, that's a tough one. He's Blake Snelling us right now, isn't he? That's the thing that I look at when I
Except
go,
he's not a dick though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't know that. We've only had him for 1 year. We don't know. But I mean, we've seen him in interviews and stuff. He doesn't throw anybody under the bus when things aren't going his way.
But I have a feeling Verlander would take the ball in the last start, even if it didn't matter.
He absolutely would. But the problem with him being in his 40s, you kind of wonder, is he in the driver's seat? or they can, any team easily point to his first half and say, well, who's to say we don't sign you and we get first half Verlander? I mean, you're getting older. You're just getting older and older and older as time goes on. Can you pitch like you have the last month and a half of the season? Can you pitch like that the entire next season, or 75 to 80% of that? So no, I don't think he's in the driver's seat. I think he's going to be probably looking for maybe 1 or 2 year deals. I would not be shocked if he goes back to Houston, or maybe even Detroit. Detroit can use another starter. We've seen them falter down the stretch here, so they could absolutely use another starter. So he could go home to Detroit or go home to Houston. I think the Giants, I'd love to see them make a run at him, because again, you get a number 4 or 5 starter. Robbie Ray is just absolutely killing us right now. He got pitcher of the month honors back in, what was it, May, I think, or June. And he's got a 7 ERA here in September. Has a hard time getting out of the 3rd or 4th inning. So the Giants are really good. They're going to need to stack up on starting pitching next year. So if they can just sign, 4 or 5 starting pitchers, and Verlander's one of them, just having extra arms is kind of a good thing, because we saw how it happens. All of a sudden you trade a guy away, and then all of a sudden you get 2 guys that are hurt. Now you're on AAA and quadruple A pitchers, and we've seen that can't carry you or sustain you in the playoff hunt in July and August. It's a really tough situation to be in. So to go out and sign guys who are there, who are on the mound, that's the key. If they can give you the innings, if they can give you 5 or 6 innings, you give them the money. And I'd love to see him come back. Just a couple months ago, we thought, I don't know, but again, you got to have arms. You've got to have a lot of arms.
Unless he gets an offer of something like 20, I have to believe the Giants will be competitive in the offer. And I sneakily wonder if the Dodgers kind of make a run at him, because they're kind of in the same boat, which is they need people who can actually go up and throw 5. And if you sell him on the idea, well, I mean, he's not going to want to be a 5 and dive guy. He wants to go deep into games. But if you sell him with the idea of, because of the way that you run your bullpen, you can, you can sort of hang out and maybe early in the season, you're not really too worried about him going deep, and then you can kind of save him to the end, and you worry about, we want you for the playoffs. We are going to make the playoffs. I wonder if they do kind of take a look at Verlander, which would be, a hard thing for us, because we don't want them to get him. But they may just have the money to be like, hey, here's 20, here's 25. We want you for this 1 year. You can help us get to where we need to go, and we're going to be in the postseason, so you will get to pitch in there. So it looks like Brad has lost his internet here. We'll see if we can get Brad back up, but if not, I can close this show down. So I guess just looking at the rest of the divisions here, Blue Jays are the only team in the American League with 90 wins. And that means that the Tigers have just kind of come across hard times. The Tigers themselves are only ahead of the Guardians by 1 game. And that was not the case weeks ago, where it looked like they were just going to clinch this division no problem. Guardians are right there with the Tigers. Yankees are 2 back of the Blue Jays, so the Blue Jays haven't exactly clinched the division. Yankees are kind of on their heels, but the Blue Jays have been in first place for so long here. And then in the West, you have the Mariners are 3 games up on the Astros, so they've leaped over and are now in sole control. And really, unless they fall off, they probably win that division. But it's the Rangers. Poor Brucey Bochy. Bruce Bochy has lost lost a few games there going into the end of the season. So the Rangers are probably not going to be involved in the playoffs there. And then in the East, the Phillies 92-64. They are going to either be the first or second seed in the National League. The Brewers are 3 games ahead of them, 95 wins. The Cubs and the Reds behind them. The Cubs are in the wild card. And then the Dodgers 88-68. That would be great if they went like 1-5 to end the season and didn't even win 90. That would be fantastic. And then the Padres 85-71. Brad's back, by the way, for if you heard the chuckle.
Yeah, so I lost my interwebs. That never happens, man.
Oh, so you just lost it completely. Now you're on the cell signal.
Yeah, just lost it completely. So I'm hooked up to 5G. So here we go.
There you go.
We'll see how this goes.
I want to thank your internet because it just right at the end, right in the last 5 minutes of the show, it conked out. I'm fine with that.
But at least it didn't do it in the first 5 minutes. That would have sucked.
Exactly. All right. So, do you have any predictions of how this Tigers and Guardians situation fixes itself?
And I haven't seen the schedule, so I'm not 100% sure who they're playing. Let's check out. Let me go to that real quick. And again, Giants fans, we want to see Stephen Vogt get in, right? I mean, because that's kind of exciting.
Nice.
I know there's a whole sect of Giants fans who are like, we should have gotten, we should have gotten Stephen Vogt. Yeah, hired the wrong catcher. I don't believe any of that stuff. It's fine. We have who we have, and I still think Bob Melvin and Buster Posey can build this roster. Again, year one of Posey and Melvin together. I still think they can build this roster into something good. So it looks like, wow. It looks like the Tigers and Guardians actually play tomorrow and Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be exciting. And then let's see here. I'm not sure if you want to pull up the Tigers and see what their schedule's like. But actually, yeah, they've got 3. So Tigers and Guardians.
Tigers, Guardians, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tigers at Red Sox to close out the season.
And that's a team fighting, right? And the Cleveland Guardians go to they stay home for actually all 6 of these games. They've got Detroit for 3, and then the Texas Rangers come in for 3. So
yeah, I mean the Red Sox still have
battling.
The Red Sox still have to win because the Guardians and the Astros are only a game behind them. And there's only 3 spots, and there are 4 teams who are hanging out there for those 3 spots. So yeah, and then the Guardians, the Guardians do have the Rangers at home to end the season. So yeah, very interesting. That's a series to kind of dial up. You were talking about the MLB package. That is a series to throw on in the background to see what happens. That's super because. I just had assumed that the Tigers are going to clinch early, and then they just fell off the table. And at the same time, in order for the Guardians to make it up, they had to win all of those games, and they did. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the great part of this time in the season, and that's what we thought we were doing too. We thought Mets are losing all these games. We're going to win all these games. We had that stretch where we went 13-3, and then after that, pretty much 500, and now back under 500. So you have to sustain, and that's what the Guardians have been doing, sustaining. So it's going to be they can overtake them, and they could end up 2 games above them by the time they finish that 3-game series if they sweep them. 2 games ahead of them with 3 games left to play. That's driver's seat right there, and because all of that momentum for the Guardians, I mean that would be amazing.
So we'll come back next week to wrap up the regular season. And with the playoffs, even if we don't do full long shows like this, I would still like to record during the playoffs and World Series just because I think it's a very active time to talk baseball. But in the postseason, in the offseason, after the postseason, in the offseason, we may go every other week or figure out what the regular routine is. Unless there's news, then we may go when there's news. So we'll figure out how to do this show. Like previously, before last year, we were trying to still go every week, even though there wasn't a lot to talk about. But I think we're going to pick and choose a little bit more because we have some other shows to pick up the slack so that we don't have to go every week if there's nothing going on. But so that'll kind of be the rhythm for the rest of the season. Even if we don't do long shows, we'll still try and do something for the postseason. It'll make sure that I keep an eye on the postseason, because sometimes when the Giants are done, I just completely turn my brain off of baseball and I go to the Warriors or whatever. But this will kind of force me to keep my eye on it. So it'll, even if the Giants are out, we'll still be back throughout the playoffs, and we'll still talk about the Giants, obviously, because one of the things about watching the playoffs is when the Dodgers and the Padres are in the playoffs, you always want to be able to measure yourself, and you watch those teams play and you go, okay,
Yeah.
how do these guys handle the postseason? What are they doing? Where are their discrepancies? And similar, which is why I want the Diamondbacks to get there if the Giants can't get there, because I want to see the same thing. How do the Diamondbacks approach this stuff? So, anyways, we'll be around.
What I would like to do next Monday is, I think it'd be kind of fun. You and I put together our playoff team power rankings. And combine American League and National League, and just kind of throw together some power rankings, yours, mine, and we kind of see where we think the teams are and who might be the favorites throughout the playoffs. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, there have been some crazy injuries too. Just heading into the place. I mentioned the Will Smith injury. Not like, the Dodgers have the people to fill in spots because of depth, but still, he's an all-star catcher, man. Like, you lose your all-star catcher before the playoffs even start. And Philly loses their ace, a month ago or whatever, heading into the playoffs. And I still think that they're the best team in the National League, but that's only because we haven't seen the Brewers do it for real. And that's kind of also what I want to see, is if the Brewers can do it for real. Because if the Brewers can do it for real, there's another blueprint that kind of tells Buster, you can still do it this way. And I just like leaning into that way of playing baseball anyways. So that's why I'm kind of rooting for the Brewers, but
it's speed and athleticism. That's Milwaukee. Speed, athleticism, and pitching. And that's what Buster wants to do. So let's root for Milwaukee to make some noise, and then kind of pushes Buster a little bit. I like that.
All right, we'll be back next week, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. And for the rest of this week, Brian and I will be back Wednesday on YouTube, live streaming, talking the end of the Valkyries season and the WNBA playoffs, and kind of figuring out when this Jonathan Kuminga situation is going to be done. And then Rod and I will be back Sunday evening, Monday morning after Niners Jaguars. We're not live streaming on Sunday night because I have something to do, but we will be live streaming after something near and dear to Brad's heart, which is Niners Rammies on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next time we live stream for We Want Winners. But all right, we'll be back talking baseball next Monday. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.